Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's time for another Godhome classroom video, this time talking about another one of my favorite bosses, the Pure Vessel. As always, this video is going to focus on Pure Vessel's attacks and then demonstrate a no-hit run of the fight on the attuned difficulty. And like usual, this content is aimed at beginner players who are trying to learn the fight and how to deal with the boss's attacks. Pure Vessel is another boss that I have beaten on Radiant difficulty, but I by no means consider myself to be an expert at fighting him. I am able to consistently beat him, just not consistently no-hit. Pure Vessel is found at the end of Pantheon of the Night, also known as P4, and is the second to last boss in the Pantheon of Hallownest, also known as P5. As such, the Pure Vessel is one of those fights that you want to get really good at, so you don't end up losing a lot of progress at the end of a long run. Pure Vessel has 6 different attacks and 3 different movement options for repositioning, a parry counter, and thankfully each move has a way that you can read what is coming next, and from there you simply need to learn the timing and spacing to avoid the attacks. Let's talk about each one of those right now. The first is Soul Daggers. Pure Vessel is going to make kind of a hissing noise and then raise his hand that glows. Then a spray of lines is going to come out, telegraphing where the daggers will be, and then the Pure Vessel fires the daggers at you. Honestly, it's easiest to avoid this attack on the ground, but for some reason I have developed muscle memory that makes me jump and try to dash through the second and third dagger to attack Pure Vessel, even though this is very risky. It's really hard to teach an old dog new tricks sometimes. The second one is Triple Slash. This is really basic. He's just going to slash at you 3 times. You can pogo off of the Pure Vessel throughout this move to avoid it, or you can dash through him. This is easiest if you have Sharp Shadow equipped. It is fairly hard to outrun the attack as it covers 1/3 of the arena. So really you want to find some other way of getting around it other than just avoiding it. His next move is Soul Pillars. Pure Vessel will teleport above you and then dive down at you. And then when he does, pillars that look like swords are going to kind of start pointing up out of the ground, and then they fly all the way to the ceiling. There is room to stand in between each one. It's like perfectly even, but you don't always have a lot of room or time to adjust, especially if you dashed to get away from where Pure Vessel is going to land. And so because of this, I often try to just jump out of the way instead, and then use a Descending Dark to damage Pure Vessel and avoid the attack with invincibility frames. If you do decide to simply stand there, be really careful, especially if you choose to attack Pure Vessel, as the knockback that you get from hitting an enemy will push you back into a pillar. You can avoid this by attacking up in the air, swinging your nail up, or by waiting for the pillar to begin to descend before you attack, or you can equip a charm, which we're going to talk about in just a second. His next attack is Lunge. Pure Vessel is going to raise its nail and then charge at you. You can easily pogo off Pure Vessel and then hit it on the way down as well. Or you can dash through the attack, and it's really hard to outrun this one as well because it does cover up 1/2 of the arena. Next attack is Pure Focus. It's not called Pure Focus, silly, it's called just Focus. But Pure Vessel will charge up a sphere of soul which explodes around it and then creates a series of smaller spheres that also explode. I tend to just dash out of the initial sphere, and then fire 2 or 3 Shade Souls at it. And then I try to position myself out of range of the mini explosions. And then from there, you just kind of wait and see what Pure Vessel is going to do next before trying to move or react. It can be really hard to tell what is going to happen next because of all the noise and visuals that are on the screen. So you really want to take your time. The next attack is Void Tendrils. Pure Vessel is going to open its cloak, and then a dark tentacle looking dealie is going to start waving around, and then they're going to shoot across the screen and whip around wildly. If you can get above Pure Vessel, you can pogo on him or use Descending Dark. Or if you can go behind him, you can just unleash a lot of nail attacks while the Void Tendrils are just sweeping around. Just be ready to move when the attack ends. Let's talk about his Stagger next, which is not really a move, but is just something that's really important to the fight. When Pure Vessel staggers, any active attack that is currently going on is immediately halted, and you have a window to heal, take a break, or if you are just feeling really saucy and aggressive, you can continue your attack. Attacking will cause the fight to resume immediately, including probably going to put up a parry. So you just want to be prepared to move or attack accordingly. If you put Pure Vessel into a stagger state using a multi-hit attack, such as Descending Dark or Abyss Shriek, you have to be really careful because sometimes that stagger will maybe triggered by one of the attacks and then canceled by one of the follow-up attacks. So be prepared to move out of the way if you were using one of those. We'll talk about defensive moves next. There are 3 of these. One is just at the parry, and I mentioned the parry already. Pure Vessel will enter a defensive posture, holding the nail out in front. And if you attack one time, the nail and the sprite will kind of glow for a second. And it usually won't trigger a counter, but if you hit it a second time, it will. When that happens, Pure Vessel will just kind of slash and charge forward. And you don't want that to happen. You can dash through it if you time it right. There's kind of like a delay, like on the game kind of like, the game doesn't freeze, but like the combat freezes for a second. You can kind of dash through it. But it is easier to just wait out the parry. So just if you see him holding up his nail, just kind of stand there. The next move is just jumping. So sometimes Pure Vessel will just hop at you. And that is all it really does. It just kind of jumps, maybe a small jump, maybe a big jump. But you can technically put Pure Vessel into a stagger during a hop. And if you do, the stagger will begin, and then he'll just kind of continue his hop along the momentum and trajectory that he had, but in the stagger pose. And like, it just kind of looks really silly. And so the dangerous part there is that even though he's staggered, you can still take contact damage. So be really careful if you stagger him out of a hop. Yeah, just be ready to move. And then the other thing is just like backstepping and teleporting. So Pure Vessel will frequently move around the arena just by teleporting or just kind of like dashing backwards if you get too close before an attack is initiated. So it's often better to react to attacks rather than initiating them yourself. Let's talk a little bit about charms and then get our no-hit run going for you. So as usual, I'll go ahead and get those on the screen here. So what we have going on here for my build, we have Mark of Pride. As usual, is going to let you hit from further away and have a larger margin of error when you try to pogo off of one of his moving attacks. Quick Slash is there to allow you to get a few hits in while you can. And my strategy is very hit and run. So 1 or 2 fast hits and then moving away is doable with Quick Slash that might not otherwise be available to you. Soul Catcher is there just to fill up spells for offensive and defensive support, and then Shaman Stone is there to make those spells do more damage. If you wanted to talk about replacements, you could replace Shaman Stone. Go ahead and take that off with, hold on. Oh, I can't. I'm not standing at a bench. You could replace it with Sharp Shadow. So Sharp Shadow allows you to dash through and do damage. That could be a useful thing for you. And then you could also put on something else. So like since Sharp Shadow costs 2, you could, if you really wanted to, put on Steady Body. So Steady Body plus Sharp Shadow allows you to dash through his attacks and do damage to him, but then also stand in the soul pillars without getting bounced back. But again, you could just swing your nail up or wait for it to go off. So you don't have to put Steady Body on there, but you can. It's a thing you could do. You could also take off Shaman Stone for Unbreakable Strength, or Strength if you just have the regular version. That'll increase your nail damage at the expense of costing you some spell damage. So if you're focusing more on nail hits and not really doing a lot of the spell tricks that we're going to show in the video, then maybe using Strength and that'll be better for you. I used to be a pure nail player, and I'm adapting and using more and more spells. But Unbreakable Strength is certainly good if you're going to do that. And then the other thing you could do is you could put on Long Nail if you wanted to have more distance. And again, you could also use because it just costs 2. You can put Steady Body and Long Nail on, or any other combination of stuff. There's lots of things that you could put on there. Shaman Stone does cost 3, so you could gain a lot of different things by taking Shaman Stone off if you really wanted to. But I would leave Soul Catcher on just because it does allow you to gather soul more quickly. So what we're going to do now is go on to the fight, and we'll take a look at that. So be right back. All right, next we're going to take a look at the no-hit run of Pure Vessel. Again, this is on the attuned difficulty, so obviously not the hardest version you can get, but I have beaten it on Radiant. I always like to walk up and just stare at Pure Vessel in all of his glory. Through years of training and support, he's become something wonderful, but he wants to fight, so fight we must. Now this is a very fast fight in a couple of ways. One, the fight itself, he moves very quickly and you have to react, but also done well, this fight only really lasts about 1.5 minutes. There's plenty of opportunities to get hit though, so I find it best to start off playing kind of defensively and then go on the offensive as we get soul for spells and things like that. A couple of things you want to look out for. Watch for when he parries. Sometimes I attack, sometimes I kind of hold off. Watch for my horrible strategy of dashing through his soul daggers. Take a look at how I use Descending Dark to avoid the pillars and avoid the void tendrils and do damage. You can also, again, pogo off of triple slashes and dashes here. There's just so much movement that the knight does to deal with Pure Vessel. So let's take a look and see if we can't catch the end of this fight. That's it, honestly. Like I said, before I even had much to say, we were watching Pure Vessel fade into void and then looking down in sorrow because it's over. Okay, that's it. So if you are interested in this type of content, let me know in the comments below. If there's a specific boss you'd like me to do next, or a set of charms you'd like me to go over, or change my charms for this boss, let me know, and there's definitely things we can do to talk about Pure Vessel. So a question I have for you guys is, what charms do you like to use on Pure Vessel? Have you gotten a win against Radiant yet? And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we'll see you next time in the Godhome classroom, where we'll take a look at another boss.